Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you one of the best platformers on the Super Nintendo and one of my favorite games of all time, Ghost Sweeper Mikami. Ghost Sweeper Mikami Joreishi wa Naisubadi is in the same pantheon of games as Gundam Wing Endless Duel, by being not only one of the best games on the SNES, but one of the greatest licensed games of all time. And just like Gundam Wing Endless Duel, Natsume proves once again that they are one of the greatest third-party developers of the era with this near-perfect masterpiece. With the season of spooks upon us, what better way to welcome it in than with this spooktacular game? It's based on the manga of the same name penned by Takashi Shiina, which in 1993 spawned a 45-episode anime that the game is primarily based off of. Our story revolves around the money-hungry Reiko Mikami, an exorcist, and her two co-workers, the lecherous Yokoshima and the ghost helper Okino-chan. One day, a strange package shows up containing a statue with a note saying that several ghosts have the stones that go to the statue, and once all are collected, a large sum of money will come their way. So of course, Mikami springs into action to get the jewels, and what follows is 2D platforming at its finest. The controls are spot on. Everything is fluent and responsive. Jumping is precise as you can adjust yourself mid-air like Castlevania 4, so platforming is hardly an issue and neither is avoiding enemies. Attacking is also no issue and is varied as you have two methods of attack, a simple slash performed by pressing Y, and a downward slash done by pressing down and Y. This method is slightly more powerful and useful. And by that, I mean not only will it shield you from enemies overhead, but will also deflect enemy projectiles back at them for extra damage. And the game expects you to use this attack, as many bosses and enemies are built around it, like the 3rd level boss who rains nuts and bolts down on you, and the 4th level boss who spends a lot of its time flying around the top of the screen where a simple slash won't reach, but a downward slash will. What's an exorcist without a few other demon-stopping tools? A chump, that's what. But Mikami is certainly no chump, as she has exorcism talismans that suck all enemies off the screen. Dually, they freeze bosses for a short amount of time, so if in a pinch, use one and wail on them. They also help out by making you invincible for their duration, so do use in rough spots where not taking damage is pretty difficult. Another tool is her Seriseki, which like the talismans, will freeze enemies and bosses, but for a longer duration. Both of these are limited, so use them wisely, but don't fret if you run out, as more can be found throughout reports. Rod power-ups can also be found along the way, like the Ice Shot, Lightning Shot, and the Energy Shot. While they do power up your attacks, most enemies already only take 1 or 2 shots, so their use is more apparent as a ranged weapon since they shoot projectiles, until you get to bosses where they do help significantly. That is, if you can keep them, as getting hit only once will downgrade you back to your normal slash. Other power-ups include Cake for extra health, and the occasional question mark, which usually involves a character coming to gift you goodies. Or not. With excellent controls comes excellent level design. For example, in the first stage, you're introduced to these platforms which you can attach to by doing a downward slash near them and pressing up to get on top of them. They make appearances all throughout the game so that you are used to them by the time you reach level 7, which is an awesome stage built around them and has you creating new platforms to scale the level, all while gravity shifts from normal to moon physics as the background changes colors. You of course have your more tame side-scrolling levels, like the train station full of decrepit hands and ghostly skulls, the under-construction amusement park run amok with rats, haunted cement bags, and conveyor belts, and this ghastly stroll through the park where Mother Nature seems to be pretty pissed off. Besides your typical platforming levels, they switch things up with a shooter level where you ride a witch's broom, and an auto-scroller where you get to ride on the back of a giant cat. Let me say that again, you get to ride on the back of a giant cat. How can you not love this game? And to top it all off, both of these stages are pretty well done and don't detract from the overall experience as one might assume. Speaking of well done, just look at how gorgeous this game is. Mikami looks fantastic, and little touches like her hair flowing behind her as she runs and jumps, or how it whips around differently for each of her 2 attacks, or how her outfit changes for each report only adds to the realism of the game. The macabre enemies also got quite the makeover, like the creatures that get cut in half once attacked, these wicked looking tree stumps, or the dilapidating hands. Of course, this game has its number of playful and strange enemies too, like the cute hobgoblin babies, adorable witches, these weird smiling potato chip moons, and these things which I can best describe as cookie dust. Regardless of what they are, the sprites are big and beautiful with lots of detail. But usually a bigger sprite means you're a bigger target, but the developers at Natsume knew this and made Mikami's hitbox smaller than her sprite. So in many instances where you think an enemy might clip you, it will in fact pass right through you, leaving you unharmed. A simple yet genius idea. And how nice is it to finally have a hitbox that favors the player? Bosses are a ton of fun and just as spine-chilling as the enemies. Most of their patterns aren't too difficult to figure out, especially after a couple of goes, but we'll certainly test your reflexes by having you dodge and weave through attacks, like the dog ghost in level 4, or Vlad the Vampire King flying all over the place in level 5, or the giant Mogadal giving you the hands. Also, look at all these sprites on screen with no slowdown. Natsume sure knew how to get the best out of the system. Backgrounds and levels go from dark and eerie, to bright and blissful, moody and cantankerous, to dreamy and surreal, all within the span of 8 levels. Hardly ever do things get boring to look at or shy of color, as levels keep things fresh by adding to the background or changing scenery throughout. That's not to say there aren't some hit or miss moments, as the second level on the mountain is rather uninspired and drab. I also have no idea why the waterfall background is so horribly pixelated here. Nowhere else in the game does this happen, so it must have been a design choice of some kind. Despite that, this level is pretty fun as you battle the current in the first half and climb your way from one platform to another as you scale the waterfall in the second half. Another issue is the shooter level. While beautiful to look at, it is kind of difficult as you're stuck with your normal slash unless you pick up this power up here, and make it through the whole level without being hit so you can take down the boss with ease. Besides the levels, the cutscenes also showcase some amazing graphics and minimal animation, both affectionately done and replicate the show perfectly. And it's no coincidence that the game stays true to the show, as Takashi Shiina himself wrote all of the dialogue. The graphics aren't the only thing well done, as Natsume knocks it out of the park with yet another fantastic soundtrack. Tracks are blissfully energetic, catchy, and fun, while still retaining a spooky aura to fit the mood of the game. The OST tackles a wide array of genres from jazz and bossa nova to synthpop and rock. Tracks stick to my mouth like peanut butter on the brain well after I've stopped playing, and I can't tell you how many times a song from this game has randomly popped into my head over the years. My personal favorites have to be Report 6 and Report 1's music, which get me pumped every time I hear them. And I can't tell you how great it is to hear the amazing rendition of the fantastic opening theme at the title screen. Man, if only they had done the ending theme as well. I will boldly say this game boasts some of the most underrated chiptunes of the 16-bit era. A big problem that a lot of people have with licensed games is, will I enjoy the game if I'm not a fan of the source material? And in this game's case, fan or not, the game strongly stands on its own. As a matter of fact, when I first came across this game a number of years ago, I wasn't aware of the anime at all, and still loved it. So much so that I sought out all the DVDs, and it now stands as one of my favorite animes, and I may have also bought a cell from the show. However, that doesn't mean being a fan of the source material doesn't have its perks, as it adds a whole other layer of enjoyment to the game, as almost all enemies, bosses, and stages are taken directly from the show. The first level boss is the Ghost Train from episode 11. The giant doll head boss in the second level is actually Mikami's Mogadal, which tries to make an evil army of dolls to take over the world in episode 3. Stage 7 is based off the episode where Yokoshima has to go into Mikami's subconscious and fight her doppelganger. The reason you get to ride a giant cat in level 3 is because Mikami gets shrunken by a spirit and has to defeat it to go back to normal, taken right out of episode 19. The Rat King at Bubble Land Amusement Park can turn Mikami into a kid, just like it did in the show, and Medusa, who's a big villain towards the end of the series, even shows up as the final boss. Even side characters like Amy, a sorceress and rival to Mikami's business, makes a cameo on the posters in level 1. And the crybaby exorcist Reiko makes an appearance in the park level, but don't dare to hit her or else she'll unleash one of her shadow monsters on you. I highly suggest watching the show, as it's a great mix of horror, sci-fi, and comedy, full of action and laughs. It's easily findable on any anime streaming site, and it's even on Toei Animation's YouTube channel. But for those seeking physical copies, I don't believe there's a Blu-ray release as of this review, so DVD is your only option. That is, if you don't prefer Laserdisc. Anyway, the transfer on the DVD is beautiful. Be warned, there is no dub of the show, so if subtitles aren't your thing, then maybe skip this one. Fun fact for those on the fence, Mikami is voiced by the late Hiromi Tsuru, better known for doing the voice of Bulma from Dragon Ball Z. Satisfactory controls, large beautiful sprites, excellent and varied level design, and extravagant chiptunes, all wrapped up in an extraordinary licensed game full of fan service. It seems unheard of, but the game is proof. Do yourself a favor and play this amazing gem. About 5 years ago when I purchased my copy, the price sat around $20 to $30, but has nearly doubled since then, now sitting around $50 to $80. While that may seem a little expensive, the game is well worth it in my opinion, and with the rising price, I highly recommend getting a copy now before it breaks the $100 mark. So track down a copy and go exorcise some demons with Ghost Sweeper Mikami.